You are Locked On Mets POSTCAST. Part of Locked On Sports New York on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The New York Mets will have to find some more magic as they fall to the Los Angeles Dodgers and find themselves down 2-1 in the NLCS after being blown out in Game 3 at home by a final score of 8-0. Welcome in to this Game 3 edition of the Locked On Mets POSTCAST. I am your host, Chris Schubert, and we don't need the book tonight. We don't need the notes tonight. There was enough just with the eyeballs for us to discuss here on the show this evening. But before we get into it all, this episode of the Locked On Mets POSTCAST brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We're not gonna sugarcoat it. We're gonna call a spade, whatever cliche you want to insert here. This was not fun. This was not enjoyable. This was probably worse than Game 1. This was worse than what happened in the 9-0 blowout in LA because it happened at home. It was worse than anything that happened in the Philly series, losing that game. This one sucked. This one was not an enjoyable watch. This team gave it away early, never could recover. The bats went cold. The defense eluded them, and they are now going to have to dig out of a 2-1 hole, and they're going to have to go back to LA and steal one in LA if they are ultimately going to win this series and move on to the World Series and represent the National League and should try and win a championship. And I think the only place to start, and we spend a lot of time here on these postcasts identifying the moments. We identify the spots in the game where the game was won or where the game was lost. And the game wasn't lost when Kike Hernandez hit a 2-run homer to make it 4-0. The game wasn't lost when Shohei Ohtani blew the doors off the game by making it 7-0. It was not lost there. This game was lost in the second inning when the New York Mets defense came back to bite them. And in that second inning, another walk issued by Mets pitchers, and I'm going to very quickly here look at what the total number was because it was a lot. A 7-walk performance tonight for the New York Mets, and the pitching staff as a whole has to stop nibbling. They have to attack these hitters. They cannot put themselves in these positions to put base runners on in key spots and allow the heart of the Dodgers order to bat with runners in scoring position. They just can't do it. This lineup's too dangerous to give free outs. This lineup is too dangerous to give free opportunities. This lineup is too dangerous to give free passes and just to keep allowing they're going to break through at some point. You can't do it. It was 8 walks in the game on Monday that they were able to get around, even though they won. But tonight it was 7 in a loss, and they've got to be better. They cannot be walking that many batters. They have to find their control. They have to find their command, or they are not going to be able to stay in this series. But it was the second inning of this game where it was lost because it started with one of those 7 walks, 4 issued by Luis Severino. He walks Max Muncy after what's so frustrating about this game. And I texted a buddy before the game and I said, you know what? Tonight feels like the night. Tonight feels like the night we get a vintage Chevy start where he hasn't really been on. He hasn't been ace-like. He hasn't had that dominant performance. We saw a complete game from him earlier in the year where he was just dominant from the word go. We hadn't seen that in a little bit. And I texted a buddy and I said, you know what? Tonight feels like the night. The extra days off of rest. He picked the jerseys. Tonight feels like the perfect opportunity for him to come out and give us one of those vintage performances. And in the first inning, against the 3 best hitters in this lineup, he got Ohtani to ground out on the first pitch, and he struck out Betts looking and got Freeman swinging. And I thought, here we go. We are going to get that performance. If he's going to look like that against those 3 guys in the adrenaline-filled first inning, we're in for one tonight. This is going to be that performance. And he comes out in the second inning, and he just immediately loses the command. He immediately loses everything that he had in the first inning. He walks Muncy, and then this is where all of the problems started. He gets a ball that's hit directly in front of Francisco Alvarez, and Alvarez just makes a bad mistake. We'll talk about Francisco big picture at the end of the show here, but just makes a mistake of trying to get the lead runner at second base. Didn't have enough time, needed to just take the shore out at first base. And instead of there being a runner at second and 1 out, you now have first and second and nobody out. And now we're immediately in a pickle. We've played 1.5 innings of baseball, and it's immediate danger. It is immediate trouble. It didn't matter what part of the lineup you're in. You have now entered into the danger zone against a very good Dodgers team when you didn't have to. You take the shore out at first base. You get a runner at second, 1 out. Now a sacrifice fly that moves them over to third. We've got 2 outs. They got to get a hit to score the run. You got to take the easy out. And Francisco Alvarez didn't do that. Tried to go to second base with it. Couldn't get the play. Now everybody's safe, and this has now become a problem. Then a ball hit right back to Severino, and he's amped up, and he's trying to make the turn. He's trying to already be geared up to throw to second base to turn a double play, and he bobbles it. Gold Glove finalist. National League Gold Glove finalist at pitcher. Because of the moment, because of the pressure trying to get the double play, botches it. Then only is able to go to first base and get 1 out. So again, would have been 2 outs. Would have had a runner at third, 2 outs. Again, sacrifice fly doesn't drive in a run, gets you out of the inning. But a defensive mistake. Now you only get 1 out. You have runners on second and third. And the inning then spirals where infield single, sac fly, it's 2-0. Tyrone Taylor makes a great defensive play, the only great defensive play in this game. I take that back. Francisco Lindor had a Gold Glove moment himself, even though he's not a finalist. And you hold the damage at 2-0. And you think to yourself, that could have been a lot worse. It also could have been a lot better. But we kept it here at 2-0. Our offense was going to always... Listen, when any team scores against the New York Mets, my group chat that I have with all my Mets fan friends, I always say the same thing. You are always going to have to score. It was always going to take at least 1 run. You were always going to have to get the offense in motion. And so I sent that text out. The offense was always going to have to score. They were always going to have to put runs on the board. And then in the bottom of the second inning, the New York Mets put runners out there. JD walked. Iglesias reached on an infield single, misplay by Tommy Edman. Tyrone Taylor draws a walk, and now it's Francisco Alvarez, Francisco Lindor, both coming up. 1 out, bases loaded. This is the moment. This is when they can take this game back. This is when they can immediately respond like they've done all year long. They can make this a 2-2 game, or at least put some run on the board, put pressure on the Dodgers, and make this a competitive ball game. And it's back-to-back strikeouts. That was the game. The game was lost right then and there. The moment they allowed that opportunity to go to waste, at least I felt it watching it at home, they were not coming back into this baseball game. Because we have seen them time and time again take those moments, run with them, score 2 runs, score 3 runs, take the lead, and away we go. And they were just unable to do it. And the at-bats, specifically the at-bat by Alvarez, was not very good. And they missed an opportunity. So that entire second inning, 6 outs into the game, is where this game was won for the Dodgers and it was lost for the Mets. The defense opened the door for the Dodgers to get 2 runs across. And again, none of that except the Edman sacrifice fly was a hard hit ball. Sevy wasn't getting hit around. Wasn't hard hit contact that they were just spraying the ball all over the place. No. A ball right in front of Francisco Alvarez, a ball back to Sevy. The infield hit by Smith was a slow roller. These were not hard hit balls. And yet they were able to, because of the defense of the New York Mets, get a couple runs across. They got to play crisp baseball. If this team is going to come back in this series, if this team is going to even things up tomorrow and make it 2-2 to go to you already can see the conversation about a potential game 5, and if it's 2-2 and the winner of game 5 goes on to win the series, whatever percent of the time they'll show the graphic. If that's going to be the future for the New York Mets, they've got to clean up the little things. And the little things have haunted them in this series. And tonight, the little things haunted them early, and they were unable to take advantage of an immediate opportunity to respond because Walker Buehler looked great in the first, and they immediately put him in danger in the second, and they were unable to do anything with it. And then in the third, Sevy works around even more trouble where he loads the bases again, and he works out of it, and it's 2-0. And the Mets get an opportunity where Vientos gets a leadoff single. Marte's hit by the pitch, so you have 2 on, 2 out. JD's up there. He can't get a run home. So again, immediate responses to big moments, and the Mets were unable to meet them tonight. They've done it all year. They've met the moment time and time again. Tonight, they were unable to do so. It's a great baseball team they're playing on the other side. They took advantage of the mistakes the Mets made. The Mets were unable to take advantage of the opportunities that the Dodgers presented. It's as simple as that. You have starting pitching that is walking too many hitters, giving away free opportunities early in the game, and you have an offense that has scored 11 runs since game 4 against the Phillies. And they have 2 grand slams to account for 8 of those runs. So this is an offense that's not producing runs the way they have been during this run up until this point. They're just not doing it. They've hit a bit of a wall. So they have to find a way to break through tomorrow. They have to find a way to get an early lead, protect that early lead with some good defense, and play the type of baseball we've seen them play all the way through this run. The way they played in Atlanta, the way they played in Milwaukee, the way they played first couple games in Philly. That is the version of this offense. They need to have power, obviously, and they had a couple of balls tonight that if this was August, they would have gone. The wind was blowing in. It did not help them. But they've got to be able to take advantage of these opportunities like they were in the previous series. They didn't tonight, and that's the difference. You look back at the second inning of this game, and that is when things went sideways for this team. We need to discuss Luis Severino, the decision to let him face the top of the lineup again for a third time, because if you were going to pick a secondary moment where this game was lost, it probably would have been that one. So we will get into that here on the other side. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. So we get to Luis Severino facing the top of this lineup for the third time. And it didn't necessarily burn the New York Mets, but I don't understand the philosophy that Carlos Mendoza has been employing lately of allowing the starters, when they clearly don't have their A+, A, B+, B- stuff, to face at the top of the lineup for a second time. Now, or a third time, excuse me. And when he did that in the top of the fifth, he got Ohtani to fly out. He got Betts to ground out. But then, because he's gassed, he's thrown a ton of pitches, Freeman singles, Muncy walks, and now you have to make a pitching change. So you could have gone to somebody for bulk at the top of the inning anyway, and instead you now had to bring in Reed Garrett in a really tough spot. I just don't understand it. It was completely avoidable. There's no reason to think that Luis Severino was going to have his A stuff to get through that 1, 2, 3 without any trouble. And so, again, they didn't lose the game because of it, right? Reed Garrett came in and got Teoscar Hernandez to strike out. But these are avoidable mishaps. These are avoidable mistakes that the New York Mets are going through right now. And so that felt like a weird one to me. It was the bottom of the sixth, because McNeil hit in the seventh. It was the bottom of the sixth where Marte singled. And so after Alonso struck out, Marte got on base with a single, and then Martinez walked. So you had first and second with one out, and Iglesias was up. Now, I don't know if necessarily you want to take Iglesias out of the game. He's been a spark plug. He's one of your better defensive players, right? I don't know if you want to take him out of the game. But after the Marte single, we could have had this conversation. That felt like the last chance they were going to get to make this game competitive and put pressure on the Dodgers to utilize their bullpen and force Dave Roberts to manage his way out of it, right? That felt like the moment. What's Jeff McNeil doing on this roster if he's not going to hit in that spot as a lefty? What's Jesse Winker's purpose as a left-handed bat when he could have started the game because you were going up against a righty and Walker Buehler? You wanted to give JD Martinez some at-bats. That's great. But isn't that what Jesse Winker's on the bench for as a lefty? And so you have these two lefties at your disposal. And the idea of having them both available to you tonight is you're going to deploy them in the moments where you feel like you got to have a quality at bat to get yourself either an insurance run or get yourself back into the game, or it's a tie game and you feel like this is the moment to take the lead. That's when you utilize these chess pieces. And he didn't use them in the bottom of the sixth. It felt incredibly weird to me that, again, we can debate whether or not McNeil should have pinched hit for Iglesias. Again, you can make the defense argument, but at that point, it's 4-0. I've got two guys on. I've got one out. I can get a lefty into the game, and Jeff McNeil, contact, has the same skill set as Iglesias, maybe with a little bit more pop. He can drive one into the gap, and all of a sudden, it's a 4-2 game. Like, that felt like the time to use him. Jesse Winker has pop. He could have come in. One swing, it's 4-3. Like, that's the moment. That's the time to try to crawl back into this game and force the Dodgers to have to at least manage a little bit. Dave Roberts got to easily manage his bullpen after it was 4-0. The Mets never threatened again after that. And so it felt like the bottom of the sixth was that time for the Mets to utilize all of the tools at their disposal left on the bench to get back into this game, or at least put some pressure on the Dodgers, and they didn't do it. And then McNeil bats in the bottom of the 7th and in 4-0 in a low-leverage environment and flies out the center. Like, I don't know what we're doing. So we use McNeil there, but he's not worthy of getting an at-bat in the bottom of the 6th when we've got RBI opportunities out there and we have a chance to claw back into the game. And I don't want to get on Carlos too much, right? There's a reason why they're here. He's a large part of it. But this tonight, it wasn't managed well. It was not a great effort across the board. Using Tyler McGill to just completely mop up the rest of the game, that was a great decision. You save everybody else in the bullpen for what's going to be an all-hands-on-deck, I think, game tomorrow. Because if you fall tomorrow and you go down 3-1, I don't see this team winning 3 in a row against the Dodgers, including 2 in LA. I just don't see it. It's too good of a team on the other side. So you got to have tomorrow. So he's going to probably manage it like it's an elimination game in a lot of regards because they have to get it. They have to even it up, and they have to force that third game at Citi Field to be a just insane scene with the series tied at 2, with the Mets having an opportunity to leave Citi Field up 3-2. Like, they have to have tomorrow. They have to have it. And part of having to have it tomorrow is going to require some very important conversations about what this lineup is going to have to look like. So we will have those conversations. We will discuss what the lineup is supposed to look like. And one major thing that I'm going to advocate for, we'll do that next. Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. We have been talking about it all throughout the postseason. Gametime, an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app, actually, they go down the closer it gets to first pitch. So you got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and the lowest price guaranteed. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. We have talked about the different features that this app has, the Gametime picks, the curation that makes it even easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it. They've got it on Gametime. Flash deals, exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game. My favorite, the all-in pricing. If you toggle this feature on, you see everything up front. There's no surprise fees when you get the checkout. I hate that. I hate when I try to buy tickets. I think it's one price. I get to the checkout screen, and all of a sudden it's another price. You don't have that with Gametime. You turn on the all-in pricing, you see everything up front. You can check out the seats ahead of time, a little panoramic view of your seats so that you can see them in the app before you buy. The lowest price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. In Gametime ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets and more with Gametime picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. PrizePicks, another app that you're going to want to download because you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks, the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. It's football season. PrizePicks, the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Make sure you are subscribed here to the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. You've turned on the notification bell so that you are notified when we go live so you can join us. And we will be back after Game 4 tomorrow as the New York Mets try to even up this series with the Los Angeles Dodgers at 2 apiece. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tap that notification bell. I've also got you covered on the Jets side of things the remainder of the season. And then Jay Berman's got you covered over on the Giants side of things. And he's also covering that other New York baseball team that is got a 2-0 series lead in the ALCS. So make sure you're tapped in with us. Make sure you turn on that notification bell and you subscribe so that you can join us after each and every game of your favorite New York sports teams where we recap, we react. It's very These are raw thoughts as the game has occurred. And I see Greg in the chat saying that they have looked bad in these two losses, kind of cleaning it up a little bit here for the podcast audience, and they have to win tomorrow. Yeah, I don't want to use the term must win because it's not a must win. They aren't eliminated if they lose, but it does feel as close as you can get to a must win for this team. And I think if there is a positive that you're going to take away from this is they've always countered. They have always bounced back. They have always shown an ability to throw that counterpunch, to be able to respond, to meet the moment when you start to maybe doubt them, when you think that they are done. And I'll be honest, I'm pretty down after tonight. I have been talking to a lot of friends throughout the game, and I said I just had this really bad feeling in my stomach throughout the game that the magic is kind of wearing off a little bit. I'm not giving up. I'm still going to root for this team, and there's still a lot of time and a lot of games in front of them. There are at least 2 more in front of them for them to make this a series and for them to put some pressure on the Dodgers and ultimately come back and win this series and make a trip to the World Series. All on the table. They are a good enough baseball team to win this series, but it's nights like tonight that hurt that a little bit. You take some body blows. They hurt. This one sucked. This one was not enjoyable. And I wonder if there needs to be a little bit of shakeup in the lineup. And I wonder if against Yamamoto tomorrow that we see Jesse Winker back in there as the DH. I wonder if it's time to get Jeff McNeil in there at second base to provide a little spark for the offense. Yeah, you're going to take a little bit of a defensive hit, but I wonder if it's time if Tyrone Taylor comes out and you get Jeff McNeil in the game or Marte. Something has to occur. And I know Marte's been hitting the ball well, but I wonder if some type of spark is added to this lineup. And I don't want to call this guy a spark, but I do wonder if it's time to have the conversation about Luis Torrens stepping in for Francisco Alvarez. He doesn't look confident. He looks lost. Some of these at-bats are not very good. It just feels like the right time to maybe sit him down for a game. Let him think about it. You have his presence late as a pinch hitter if you want to use him as a power swinging bat late in the game. But I think it certainly should cross Carlos Mendoza's mind to put out a different lineup. And even if he's not going to make the other 2 moves I suggested about getting Winker back in there and putting McNeil in the lineup, I certainly think there's going to be some long conversations tonight and most of the day tomorrow about Luis Torrens being back there because the defense that Torrens provides is still a high quality, so you're not losing anything defensively, and you can't make the argument right now that you're losing a ton offensively. Torrens will just slide right into the 9 spot. He will just pick up where Francisco Alvarez left off in terms of the batting lineup, and you hope you can get something out of Torrens that's more than what you were getting out of Alvarez. Again, desperate times call for desperate measures. This team's down 2-1. Their offense has kind of been stagnant. These are the levers that are at Carlos Mendoza's disposal to be able to maybe spark this group. And listen, the top of the lineup didn't hit well tonight. I'll do the math real quick, but there's 2 hits amongst the top 4 of the lineup. Lindor, Vientos, Nimmo, and Alonso. Lindor went 0 for 4. We've seen him bounce back time and time again. Do you expect him to go 0 for 4 tomorrow? No, you don't. Vientos went 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. He's bounced back. He bounced back from his poor performance in game 1. Pete's looking for a big moment in this series. I think that will come here soon. So there are ways to spin this and to look at this positive. And teams have come back from 2-1 down before. It's not an impossible task. They're not down 3-0. They're not trying to be the 2004 Red Sox. But this one stung tonight. And home crowd, Doc and Darryl throwing out the first pitch. A lot of energy after the Mets, got one back in game 2 of this series to come back all even. And I said a series doesn't start until a team wins a road game, and then the Mets and then the Dodgers have to respond. Well, they immediately responded. Now it's the Mets' turn to bounce back and push this thing back to LA with the Mets up 3-2. And if they're going to do that, it starts with tomorrow. So they will have to do so, and they will be asking Jose Quintana to continue what has been an absolutely incredible run from him the last 6 weeks or so, and he will have to continue that in order for the Mets to even up this series. We will be back tomorrow to recap Game 4 after it happens, whether or not the Mets move one step closer to elimination or if they even up this series. I appreciate each and every one of you that have joined us here on what is not a fun postcast. These are not fun after a loss, and especially when it moves the opposing team one step closer to the World Series and it pushes the New York Mets one step closer to the offseason and one step closer to elimination. Not fun, but still a lot of baseball to be played. There are at least 2 more games at Citi Field. Bring the energy tomorrow, wherever you're watching the game. If you're going to Citi Field, if you're watching it with friends at a bar, you're at home doing a watch party, you're watching it by yourself, bring the energy because this team is still alive. This team can still bounce back. They've done it before, and I have a decent feeling that they will do it again. They have always seemed to respond this year. It has been their motto. It has been their mantra this year, and we will see if they have one more in them. But that is going to do it for us here on this edition of the Locked On Mets postcast. After Game 3, the New York Mets fall in disappointing fashion 8-0 to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they will have to act quickly, and they will have to act rapidly, and they will have to show that response that we have seen from them time and time again if they are going to even up this series. But we will be back tomorrow to break it all down as the New York Mets will take on the Dodgers in Game 4. So we will do that tomorrow. Hope everybody's able to potentially enjoy the rest of their night, but don't dwell on it too long, because there's another baseball game tomorrow, another opportunity to immediately wash this thing away. And you know how this goes so far through this series. Who's ever won has had a 6-0 lead or more. It's been a rare thing to see in this series, and the Mets will try to do their best to respond in a big way tomorrow, and we'll be here to break it all down. Good night, everybody.